नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 5. Vidura talks with Maitreya, text 30. Aham tatyat vikurvanan mano vaikarikad abhut vaikarikas cha ye deva arthabhi vyanjanam yataha aham tatyad vikurvanan mano vaikarikadabhu vaikarikascha je deva arthabhivanjanam yataha aham tatyad vikurvanan mano vaikarikadabhu vaikarikascha je deva arthabhivanjanam yataha aham tatyad vikurvanan mano vaikarikadabhu vaikarikascha je deva arthabhivanjanam yataha Matajis. Aham tatyat, from the principle of false ego. Vikurvanat, by transformation. Manaha, the mind. Vaikarikat, by interaction with the mode of goodness. Abhut, generated. Vaikarikaha, by interaction with goodness. Cha, also, ye, all these, devaha, demigods, artha, the phenomenon, abhibhyanjanam, physical knowledge, jataha, the source. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. The false ego is transformed into mind by interaction with the mode of goodness. All the demigods who control the phenomenal world are also products of the same principle, namely the interaction of false ego in the mode of goodness. Please repeat after me. The false ego is transformed into mind by interaction with the mode of goodness. All the demigods who control the phenomenal world are also products of the same principle, namely the interaction of false ego and the mode of goodness. This verse has a very short purport. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. False ego interacting with the different modes of material nature is the source of all materials in the phenomenal world. Quite a short purport, but says a world of wisdom. So, this chapter is describing the principle of creation, how the material nature became manifest. The material nature has two stages of existence. One is unmanifest and the other is manifest. Abhyakta and Vyakta. Sometimes it is manifest and sometimes it is unmanifest. And here, very scientifically and very systematically, it is being described how and when the material nature becomes manifest. From unmanifest stage, how this material nature becomes manifest. This material nature, the cause of manifestation of this material nature generally is unmanifest. The nature by itself cannot become manifest. Material nature cannot become active. Manifestation means activity. Matter cannot be active by itself. Matter needs the living force to become active. Matter is by nature inert. So how can an inert object become active? So the activity is solely dependent upon the living force. The living force comes and activates the material nature. So the manifestation of the material nature literally means the activation of this material nature. And what is the living force that activates this material nature originally is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes involved in the material nature, and as a result of that, the material nature becomes manifest. That activation of the material nature takes place by the Lord's glance. The Supreme Personality of Godhead glances towards the material nature, and the material nature becomes manifest. It becomes active, and now it is being very systematically, step by step, is being analyzed how the material nature becomes manifest or becomes active. The first cause is, as I mentioned, the glance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as a result of this glance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the time factor is generated. The time in that way is an expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so time is the principal cause. Like in the material nature, everything is existing on time. Can anything in this material nature exist without time? Nothing can exist without time. Everything is existing on time. In time, everything is created. At certain point in time, it is created. For some time, it exists. And then at some other point in time, it becomes annihilated or destroyed. So everything in this material nature is dependent upon time. Time factor. Kala. And this kala causes the material nature to become activated. Kala choditat. Influenced by time, affected by time, agitated by time. Kala choditat. This material nature becomes manifest, begins to manifest. Then what is the next thing that happens due to the glance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? The Mahat Tattva is generated. The Mahat Tattva, what is Mahat Tattva? Mahat Tattva is the basic ingredient of everything. And it has been explained in the previous verse that Mahat Tattvad Vikurvanad Aham Tattvam Vajayata. Then the Mahat Tattva transforms into Aham Tattva. What is the Aham Tattva? Aham Tattva is the false ego. And then in this verse we are getting to understand that the false ego becomes affected or influenced by the modes of material nature, or the modes of the material nature interacts with the Aham Tattva, and as a result of that, different things becomes manifest. There are three things: Bhuta, Indriya, and Mana. Manomaya. Bhuta is the elements. Bhuta is material ingredients. Bhuta, like what are the bhutas? Pancha Mahabhut. These are the bhuta. The material ingredients or elements of this material nature. Pancha Mahabhut. Earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Bhuta, Indriya, the senses. Bhuta, Indriya, and Mana. So basically these are the three principles. That is the cause of all the elements of the material nature. 5 Mahabhuts, Pancha Mahabhut, 5 senses, and the mind. Now how does it happen? The 5 elements of the material nature are there, and 5 senses are there. So as a result of the interaction between the 5 senses and the 5 elements of the material nature, what happens? The objects of the senses are generated. Like ether interacts with ears, sound is produced. Air interacts with skin, touch is produced. Fire interacts with eyes, form is produced. Then tongue interacts with water, taste is produced. Earth interacts with nose, and smell is produced. So it's all due to the interaction of the senses and the elements of this nature. Gives rise to the objects of the senses. What are we experiencing in this world? Just these 5 sense objects. Roop, Rash, Gandha, Sabda, and Sparsha. sound, touch, form, taste and smell. And then there is another further development. And that development is the generation of the working senses. There are knowledge acquiring senses, or eyes, ears, nose, tongue and touch. And then there are 5 working senses. But behind all that are actually Bhuta, Indriya and Mana. Bhuta, Indriya, elements of the ingredients of the material nature, the senses and the mind. Now here we are also seeing how mind is generated. Now it's going even further. How mind is generated, this Aham Tattva is affected, or Aham Tattva, when the Aham Tattva is affected by mode of goodness, then the mind is produced. And along with that, another thing is produced. The demigods. The demigods are the product of the interaction between this Aham Tattva and in the mode of goodness. Man and Devatas are generated by this by the influence of the mode of goodness on Ahankar. So this is called Vaikarika Ahankar. They are the demigods and the mind are the products of the Vaikarika Ahankar. The next verse will describe the effect, the influence of the mode of passion in the Aham Tattva. Then that is Taijasa Ahankar, and then Tamasa Ahankar. So the next verse is actually describing the senses are certainly products of the mode of passion in false ego, and therefore philosophical speculation, knowledge and fruitive activities are predominantly products of the mode of passion. So senses are generated, the Aham Tattva's interaction with the mode of passion. And Tamasa Ahankar, what happens when the Aham Tattva is affected by Tamasa Ahankar? The sky is a product of sound, and sound is the transformation of egotistic passion. In other words, the sky is symbolic representation of the super soul. So this is how gradually things are becoming manifest from spiritual. Jai Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Jai Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan ki, Jai Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. The sky, so in this way, from the spiritual we can see the material nature due to the influence of the spiritual energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead begins to manifest. And what is the manifestation? From subtle to gross. Originally it is the subtlest. What is the subtlest concept? Where the spirit, soul and material nature are just about to mix with each other. That is Mahat Tattva. The spiritual energy of the Lord is affecting the material nature. The very initial interaction between these two is the Mahat Tattva. And then from Mahat Tattva it is becoming Aham Tattva, the false ego. So we all are products of false ego. We all have false ego. So here we can see that, and the false ego, sometimes we can't understand what is this false ego. Although we use the expression so much, mind we can understand, intelligence we can understand, but the false ego, actually it's so subtle that we cannot really understand it. So more subtle it is, more difficult it is to comprehend. Or rather, to put it the other way around, the more gross it is, the more perceivable it is. And what is the grossest? The grossest is earth. We can perceive it. We can perceive it with our touch. We can perceive it with our eyes. We can perceive it with the smell. We can even taste it with our tongue. And we can hear also. We can perceive the earth also with our ears. So the grosser it is, all the subtle are involved in it. Like in earth, ether, air, fire and water are there. But then we go into water, liquid. Liquid, it becomes more subtle. Isn't it? Earth is solid substance, is more gross than liquid substance. Then it goes to fire substance. It's even more subtle. Like we can consider it in this way. Earth we can see with our eyes. Water we can see with our eyes. Fire we can see with our eyes. But air, can we see it with our eyes? No. But we can feel it with our skin, with our touch. When it blows, especially when it blows little heavily, we feel, oh, it's so nice, gentle breeze is blowing. And then we can see that also when we breathe, we can perceive that air. We are taking the air. But when it comes to ether, it's so subtle that we cannot really define what ether is, because it's practically beyond our sense perception. Akash. Now, in this way, we can see this knowledge is so scientific, so scientific. Like last few days, while we are discussing this chapter, the one topic is coming out time and time again, that how unscientific is modern science is. How totally unscientific. Whereas these informations from the Vedas are so scientific. But what goes on in the name of science? What is happening today? Due to the wonderful influence of Mr. Kali, what is happening in this world today? The most unscientific concepts have been accepted as scientific, and most scientific concept has been branded as myth, mythology. This is the most unfortunate thing for this great nation, India. Although it has inherited this most profound wisdom, but they are thinking, what do the Indians call these scriptures? How do they describe it? Mythology. Mythology. Oh, Mahabharata, Ramayana, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, they are all mythology. They have become so stupid. As I say, due to the influence of Mr. Kali. Mr. Kali has become their teacher. And the agents of Mr. Kali, the Western civilization, has become their leaders. Oh, Sahib ne bola hai, ये माइथोलॉजी है, इसलिए उसको ग्रहण करना चाहिए. और हमारे साधु लोग जो कहते हैं, इस्कॉन के भक्त लोग जो कहते हैं, उसका कोई मूल्य नहीं है. बल्कि ये सोचना चाहिए कि इस्कॉन आज साहेब लोग को इस भाव को ग्रहण करने में इतना प्रभावित किए हैं कि उन लोगों ने अपना साहेबपन छोड़कर सब भारतीय बन रहे हैं. Due to the teachings of their worshipable lords, the British colonials, the Indians today have rejected their own culture, thinking that what the British have taught them, that is the real knowledge. And what they taught, that whatever is Indian is bad. Whatever is Indian is useless. India is a country which was in the mode of in total darkness. Because we have come, we brought some light to this country. So you should be thankful to us. And although the Britishers have left 60 years ago, still the Indians are worshipping them. Their education system is what they are following. And as a result of that, they have rejected the Vedic culture and they are just accepting this bogus ideas that goes on in the name of science. But they don't realize, they don't consider one thing, that these teachings of ISKCON all over the world are converting the Europeans and Americans into the followers of the Vedic principles, Vedic ideals. And those people are not ignorant or unintelligent individuals. They are actually the most intelligent personalities. So much so that they have given up their entire culture and accepted the Vedic culture, so much so that, as we are hearing yesterday, devotees like Anandamaya Prabhu, for 37 years he is just serving in India at one place, spreading this Vedic culture. Why? Because these devotees found, although they are coming from the Western background, they are born in the West, brought up in the West, they had all the facilities of the West, but they have rejected that culture ever since they came across Srila Prabhupada's teachings, the Vedic teachings. In this room there are such examples. Anandamaya Prabhu, Amit Krishna, Rajadharma, then Mara from Lithuania, Maithili from Russia, Naika from Russia. So all these, do they look very stupid? They are, when you talk to them, anybody can talk to them and see their wisdom. They are situated in perfect knowledge. Why did they accept it? Because this is the real knowledge. And that actually gives us a tremendous hope. Like that's what we have to understand, the greatness of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada in 10 years' time, what has done, actually laid the foundation stone for spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world. Srila Prabhupada established that the intelligent class of the people all over the world are going to accept it, these teachings. So another person I forgot to mention is Jayadev. So if some intelligent individuals accept these teachings, this understanding, why? Because it's scientific. It's a proof that it's only a matter of time. People from all over the world, intelligent class of people, are going to accept it. Today, around the world, there are not too many intelligent people. That's why their number is so few. Another thing is, probably, I will say, that our presentation is not being executed properly. We are not presenting it properly. Prabhupada did it. And as a result of that, Prabhupada's influence created thousands of devotees all over the world. Unfortunately, for various reasons, all these devotees that Srila Prabhupada made all over the world, they lost faith and gone away. And they didn't lose faith in the Vedic teachings. They lost faith in our management. They lost faith in our leadership. They lost faith in the way we are executing our activities in ISKCON. That's why they left. They didn't leave the Another thing is the way they're missing Srila Prabhupada. That's why they left. After Srila Prabhupada left, such a void has been created that many devotees became disheartened and left. And we are not really able to attract so many individuals as Prabhupada did during his time. I'll give you an example. Like when Prabhupada was present and you went to a temple, you know what you would see? What kind of faces you will see? You will see all white faces and very few Indians. It's not that some Indians are also very white. But just to point it that way, I mean, if you came, then you would see that the temple was filled with Americans and Europeans and very few Indians. But today what is happening? In most of the temples, you see mostly Indians and very few non-Indians. So the thing has reversed, unfortunately. And actually people should accept this teachings on the merit of the teachings. One should accept this subject on the merit of this subject. Why should one accept it? Why should one accept these teachings of the Vedas? Why should one accept the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam? Why? Because it makes sense. That's what it should make. That's what should attract people. Not that because, it is Indian and I'm Indian, therefore I must follow it. Or because it is Indian and I'm American and I should not accept it. No. It should be accepted on the basis of its substance. This is a universal truth. It applies to everybody. The creation that has been described here, the way creation comes to, or material nature becomes manifested, is the most scientific understanding. And the science is beyond the geographical and social and religious and all kinds of such petty boundaries. Science is universal. 2 atoms of hydrogen, when combined with 1 atom of oxygen, does it produce water only in India? It produces water everywhere in the world. And you electrolyze water, what will you find? When you electrolyze water in Russia, you'll find 2 atoms of hydrogen, 1 atom of oxygen. So that is what science is. It's applicable everywhere. And it will bear the same result. Therefore, Prabhupada was so emphatic that this is not a faith. This is not a matter of some ideas. This is science. And you must accept it as a science, not as a faith. Because I am a Hindu, therefore this is my scripture, therefore I should follow that. No. It is not for Hindus or non-Hindus. It's for everyone. Whoever wants the wisdom, they will have it. Is Lord Brahma a Hindu or? Brahma is Lord Brahma. Is Krishna Hindu? Is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hindu? No, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we must transcend these narrow limitations. We are not Hindus or Muslims or Christians or Jews. We are not Indians or Americans or Europeans or Chinese. We are all spirit souls. So that is the very beginning. We are spirit souls. So let's deal with that understanding. And this information is a spiritual understanding. And it's a very, very simple concept. We go back to the very original concept. Can matter be active by itself? It cannot become active by itself. Wherever we see matter, we see it is inert. And to activate an inert object, there is a need for a living force. And that also applies in the very basic concept, the creation of this material nature. Material nature means a nature of matter. So how can this nature of matter become activated by itself? So there must be some living force behind it. What is that living force? The living force is the influence of the Lord, or involvement of the Lord, which takes place in the form of His glands. So that is where we have to begin. The problem with the modern science is that they accept matter, but they do not want to accept the spiritual aspect. And you can see that that is a very childish, very, very unintelligent approach. A child may think that way. Oh, yes, matter can be. Everything came from matter. Because he sees only matter. He doesn't have the intelligence to understand the spiritual influence behind the matter. Like when you were a child, we have very limited understanding. Like for example, when I was a child, I used to think that inside the radio there are people who make all this, who are speaking, who are doing all that. As a child you think that way, that's understanding. But when you grow up, then you get to understand how the radio waves are being transmitted from one station, and those radio waves are captured by the aerial and is being presented in the form of sound. So as we grow up, our intelligence develops and we get a more subtler and subtler understanding. So less intelligent people are caught up with just the gross perception, but more intelligent people can approach in the subtle. And the most intelligent person can go beyond the subtle platform and come to the spiritual platform. So the spiritual subject matter is meant for what kind of people? The spiritual subject matter is meant for the most intelligent class of people. So if today not many people are accepting that, then what does it mean? It means that most of the people in this world today are actually not very intelligent. That's one thing. Another thing is, we are probably not able to present it clearly enough that they are not accepting. We are not exposing them, and that's why probably they are not accepting. Jai Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki Jai. Jai Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan ki Jai. Jai Shri Shri Gauri ki Jai. At least we who have accepted this path of Krishna consciousness, those who have accepted the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, let us at least accept these teachings, these informations wholeheartedly. And then what will we find? We'll find that yes, it makes sense. It makes sense. It makes such a lot of sense. And that is the thing about the truth. The reality about the truth is, the more you become, the deeper you go into the truth, the more convincing it becomes. So let us go deeper and deeper and deeper. We are seeing, at least we are seeing that there is some very, very unique phenomenon. The phenomena of consciousness, phenomena of life, phenomena of what life does. Such amazing things are caused by living beings. Like we take just some simple elements in the form of food. And you know what the result is? Although the foodstuffs can be very simple atomic structure, molecular structure, but once it goes inside our body, we have a very wonderful laboratory inside our body, the stomach. It transforms those simple structures into such complex structures in the body cells, in tissues, in muscles and blood. How does it happen? And also it is important to understand that not a single laboratory in this world has been able to manufacture tissues or blood or such things in their laboratory. Taking the elements, what to speak of producing these very complex structures like tissues and bone marrows and muscles and so forth. You know something? The modern science, in spite of their such claim of advancement, haven't been able to produce a grain of sugar from carbon and water. Actually, what is the sugar structure? 6 atoms of carbon and 6 molecules of water is sugar. There's plenty of carbon in the nature, and there's plenty of water in the thing, and they haven't been able to combine this carbon and water to form sugar. So that is how expert they are. Whereas the sugarcane plant is producing unlimited amount of sugar molecules without any difficulty. They don't even need a laboratory. They themselves are manufacturing it just from the earth. So this is the reality. Actually, someday I want to make a kind of a theme park here. And this is what we are going to do. We are going to expose the failures of their claims. Simple things. What to speak of sugar? You know what is the most simple atomic structure of an organic compound? Is a methane. It's just one molecule of carbon and 1 atom of carbon and 4 atoms of hydrogen. It's the simplest structure, simplest organic structure. Organic means the elements that come from the life's living source. That is what is organic branch of the chemistry. And inorganic is dead source. Organic is a living source, inorganic is a dead source. We see that all the organic compounds are very complex. Like the simplest of them all is carbon, is methane. 1 carbon and 4 atoms of hydrogen. And they haven't been able to produce it in their laboratory. They say that yes, they can produce, but that will cost so much money. Anyway, I mean, that is disputed. I mean, I'm not that well informed about that. But the thing is, you know one thing, like if they could do that, if they could make methane, then all the power problem would have been solved in this world. What are they trying to do? They are trying to get the source of oil or gas from the nature, because they need that for the power source. They are exploring everywhere, spending billions of dollars to find these sources. But they can't make them in a factory. If they could, if there was a factory that could produce methane gas from carbon and hydrogen, then all their problems would have been solved. Another thing that they are trying to explore into, to source power from water. Now, you see, the source of power is actually, say, petrol, gas. What actually happens, the source of power is that combustion, when something burns, then carbon dioxide is generated and water is generated. Like when, say for example, when benzene burns. When the benzene burns, then the carbon combines with, due to the burning, carbon becomes carbon dioxide, or that benzene burns and interacts with the air, and it becomes hydrogen combines with the oxygen, becomes water, carbon combines with the oxygen and becomes carbon dioxide. Now, if they could split water, H2O, and make that split, and the energy was released out of that, all our energy problem would have been solved. But they can't do that. Now let us consider, why is that? Because water is an inorganic element, but the energy is generated from organic source. Anyway, these are some. So the point that I'm trying to make is that it is important to make people understand that how the modern science is bluffing them and keeping them in darkness. But everything would have been so much easier if everything could have been, if we can just simply understand the difference between matter and spirit, difference between the inert matter and living soul. If we can understand just this principle, this point, then all the problems will be solved. And that is what Srila Prabhupada had been trying to do. He was giving this information, giving the understanding, giving this knowledge to the people of this world today. And that's what we have to do. We have to take up this responsibility and make everybody understand and do whatever is necessary. People don't read books. That's the problem. People don't even want to, they don't understand just by hearing. Therefore, people needs to see and experience. And that is how we have to open their eyes. Simple principles, simple questions like that. As Prabhupada brought up, or as Prabhupada presented, rather, that you are saying that life is a product of chemicals. So all the chemicals are there. Then why don't you produce life? Or why don't you bring a dead body back to life? All the chemicals are there. If it is the lack of some chemicals that the body becomes dead, then why don't you make it alive? But on the other hand, let us consider the uniqueness of the living force. The uniqueness of the living force is like take a grain of wheat, just one grain of wheat. You drop it on the soil, water it and expose it to sun. What will happen? It will germinate. A wheat plant will come. come out. And in that wheat plant, what will we find? We'll find thousands of wheat grains in one plant. And in each plant, each grain has a plant inside it. Each grain of wheat. And in that plant, there are thousands of wheat grains. And in each grain there is a plant. And in that plant there are thousands of wheat. And in each of these wheat there is a plant. Now let us consider, will they ever be able to manufacture something like in their factory or in their laboratory? Will they ever be able to manufacture something like this? That they will plant one. They are saying that they will create life. We say you don't have to create life. Just produce one grain of wheat in your laboratory. Let's not go that far that you'll create life. Just produce one grain of wheat. And you plant it on the ground and a wheat plant will come out. They'll never be able to do it. So what is the mystery behind it? The mystery is the presence of a soul in that grain of wheat. That germinates into a plant. And in that plant it reproduces thousands of other wheat grains. And in each grain there is a plant, a living source. So that is how wonderful life energy is. That is how wonderful the activity of the soul is. It's very, very simple. Common sense matter. Bhaktivinoda Thakur therefore wrote, the man's glory in his common sense. That actually distinguishes man from every other creature. But will man lose this wonderful faculty? Why not use your common sense? And then the entire horizon of the spiritual reality will open up. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari. Does anybody have any question or comment? Yes, Krishna Chan.
Maharaj said that one of the reasons why people and large numbers are not taking Krishna consciousness is because it has not been properly presented. So what does it mean by proper presentation and how does one know?
Proper presentation means first you understand what it is all about, and then tell it to others. That's the presentation. Like first we have to understand what it is. What are the informations in the Vedic scriptures. Let's understand it ourselves and then let's go out and present it. That's the proper presentation. And mind you, it will depend upon your own conviction. That's why you have to know it yourself first. The more convinced you are, the more effectively you'll be able to influence others. Okay, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Gaur Premanande Hari. Oh, one thing I just wanted to, please sit down, don't get up now. Yesterday I changed the program. I mentioned yesterday also that the evening program also was a continuity of Srila Prabhupada Memorial Festival, and so I know many of you wanted to make your offerings. You wanted to, maybe you have written something or you wanted to say something. I'm sorry to have deprived you of that opportunity. So what we'll do is, whatever offerings you have written, you can give it to, I would like to read them in a more peaceful state of mind. So the information or whatever offerings you had, you can give them to Ganganarayan Prabhu. And yes, Priyavrata? Okay. Yeah, please. Yeah, okay. Yeah, or so I will read them myself. And also I thought that I will print them. I'll get them printed in a kind of a book, so that they're kept as a record. Like I'm doing the other way round. Previously what you used to do, you used to write and print it in a Vaspuja book, and then I used to read it and hear it. But now I'm going the other way round. I'll read it and then we'll print them in a book. And those of you who want to, even if you want to write something, yes, you can do that. Because I can see that it has its benefit. When you write, then yes, certain realizations do come in, certain feelings, certain emotions do become prominent, and they're important. So relationship means exchange. But at the same time, I'll tell you that the ultimate consideration of relationship is in getting involved in doing things together. That is what creates the real spirit of reciprocation. So let's do something, not just speak. They say that talk is cheap. Action is what really matters. So let's not just talk, let's do something. And what we are expected to do, let's push this movement forward. Wherever you are, just make it a point to push this movement forward. It's not a matter of just some emotional exchange. That may have its meaning, that may have its effect and objective, but what really will matter is let's all get into doing something. Srila Prabhupada has given us a very important mission, and Srila Prabhupada created the structure of ISKCON. So now let us, irrespective of where we are, whether we are working together or not, it doesn't matter. Let's try to achieve the goal that Srila Prabhupada has set for us, and that goal is in every town and village. So wherever you are, you have an opportunity to do something wonderful. Just go ahead and do it. And that is how we will create our spirit of unity. That is how we are going to associate with each other in a real sense. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Gaur Premanande.